Hello, everybody. Hey, Lindsay Davis here with Spartan Invest, and very lucky to have Heather Melson with Pearce Bevill joining us. Heather, tell us a little bit about yourself real quick.
Hey guys, as Lindsay said, I'm Heather Melson. I'm with a local firm here in Birmingham, Pearce, Bevill, Leesburg, and more. Been a CPA with this firm for about 12 years now. And the last week, I've been diving in pretty heavy into this payroll protection program and the ever-changing environment that we've got right now, thanks to COVID-19.
Right. And that's what I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk to you about, because I know you and I have spoken offline quite a bit regarding the loan, what it means for small businesses, and you know, there's so much misinformation out there. And even when I'm talking to my husband about it, you know, he's watching the news all day, and he's like, "Well, that's not what said on the TV." You know,
Yeah.
so there's so much conflicting information. So I really just want to dive in and try to get, because I know you've spent, you know, the last week and a half of your life dedicated to trying to figure this out. So just kind of walk through, you know, one, just the stimulus itself, and then what it really means for small businesses, and then we'll get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty details.
Okay, yeah. So the CARES Act, I think the biggest thing that everyone's talking about is our payroll protection program. So this is a refundable loan administered by the SBA, the Small Business Association, but it's partnered through the banks. So you're going to start with your banker on this process. And what this loan does is we're looking back at 2019. We're going to see, what did you pay your employees, their actual gross wages, paid time off, vacation, health insurance, retirement plan. Like, we're looking at the big picture. We're going to average it out by 12 months, determine what your payroll cost is every month, and then the government is going to give you a loan for 2.5 of that number. So the goal of this program is that we're putting money into business owners' pockets so they can keep their employees paid for the next 2 months while we fight out quarantine and social distancing. So there's a lot more components of that, but that's kind of the bare bones of it right there. Is it is money to go back to our businesses to keep our people paid.
So dive in a little bit more on the amount, because, you know, I've heard a lot of people say, well, it's, you know, it depends on what you have for rent, utilities, and that's not really the strictly.
Yes.
That a little bit.
I think the biggest confusion I have seen is that during the 8-week period after you get your loan, you can pay your employees, your rent, or utilities, or some interest related to mortgages or debt already outstanding, and that can be forgivable. Well, 75% of the loan proceeds have to go towards employee costs to get into this forgiveness, along with other metrics where we're looking to make sure that you have all the same employees you had before. I mean, it's okay if one guy left and you filled that spot. The big thing we want to see is, if you let people go because of COVID-19, did you bring them back? And are you paying them what they made before? Because again, payroll protection is to protect payroll, not necessarily pay rent. There's just the added benefit that the government's giving you 2.5 months worth of payroll costs, but you're only paying 2 months during this forgiveness period. Some of the big things is looking at, how do we determine how much your loan is going to be? That's the big kicker. It's been all over the board. The Treasury guidance has changed day to day. I think we have filled out the same applications 3, 4, 5 times for the same people because the rules change every morning. So the good or the bad is, the Treasury says, if you filled it out on Monday, you were subject to Monday's rules. If you filled it out on Thursday, you were subject to Thursday's rules. Well, the downside there is, we had a big argument over, is it $100,000 per employee total, or $100,000 gross wages plus their health insurance and plus their retirement? Doesn't seem like a big deal, but then when you factor in, you know, health insurance could be $13,000 to $20,000 a year. Retirement could be anywhere from a $5,500 IRA match to profit sharing. So we're looking at $20,000 to $40,000 difference of inclusion. At the end of the day, we did decide it is $100,000 wages plus insurance plus retirement to calculate these numbers, which is great for employers, incentive to keep all of our benefits up as well. So another issue we've kind of gone back and forth is, you know, if you're self-employed, you don't get a paycheck. So what do you do? Is the government protecting your paycheck? Yes, they are. So we ended up with staggered filings. Last Friday, all businesses, as in partnerships and corporations, could start filing. This Friday, April 10th, all of our self-employed people can start filing. These are our sole proprietors, our Schedule C guys. Basically, we're looking to see earned income. So if you're paying self-employment tax and income tax on your earnings from your business, then yes, you are included. While you may not have payroll reports, the banks are saying they'll use your tax return in your Schedule C or 1099s that your customers have provided to you for services. So you're still included in this batch as well. So then we're still taking the 2.5 months, and we have to use it over the next 8 weeks to pay payroll, rent, utilities, and interest on debt. And there are some kind of caveats.
So just to,
go ahead, Lindsay.
sorry, so just to clarify, so if you have your own business and your application, you can apply, and this is pertaining, a lot to Spartan Invest clients, is that, they have, single member LLCs with their real estate, within those LLCs. So it would be your annualized, it would be your income for 2019, average monthly, I guess, income. Is that what you're saying for your independent if you have no employees?
Yeah, so the big thing is it's got to be earned income. So if you're operating all of your investments as your real estate, as your business, and you're a real estate professional, like that is all you do, then you are paying self-employment tax on it, and it does include you. We just got to make sure that if we're wanting payroll protection, that we're treating the earnings as payroll. Kind of the downside to that is if we're treating it as investment income and we're not paying self-employment tax on it, then it's not going to come under the payroll protection. We'll have to go through another program that will not have the forgiveness component to it. And pardon me for a minute, guys, I have lost your picture, Lindsay. Let's see, I think we're all learning a lot more about technology than we are used to.
This 100% accurate in that now my kids have Zoom calls with teachers, and I can't even imagine what it's like to do Zoom calls with a bunch of 5-year-olds.
Chaos.
Yes, utter chaos.
Okay.
You good?
I'm coming, hang on. Woo-hoo. I'm sorry, guys, let's see. Okay, we good?
Yeah, we're good. So that's a really good clarification too, from sole earners or people without employees, and whatever terminology you want to use. But the one big thing that you and I talked a lot about over the last week, and there's so much question about, is how to apply, what do you have to have ready, and what is your bank going to take? And that hasn't been universal across the board, because it depends on your bank, because they're going through the bank. So talk a little bit about that and why it's not consistent, because what one person's bank might require as far as numbers go, or documentation or proof just to get the application in, may be different than what your bank might require. So talk a little bit about that and why it's not consistent across the board.
Yeah, so that has probably been the most frustrating thing for my clients, is that I'm giving them a list of what I'm hearing from one banker, and another banker's telling them something differently, and we're all getting mad at the bankers. But if we look at the big picture, Trump announces all of this on a Friday and says, hey, you can apply next week with your banker. This is the first the bankers are hearing about it too. So they're running, they're scrambling. Typically the SBA manages all their loans at the SBA level, but instead they want it at the banker level. So now we've asked the bankers to take on all the liability of making sure everything is correct and accurate on this, and that's a huge liability to begin with. But then also we're asking people who are not thumbing through payroll and tax returns on a daily basis, figure it out overnight and process 5,000 of these in the next 3 days, please. And everyone thinks theirs is the most important. So we've seen a couple of different things. SmartLoansBiz.com is one of the SBA websites that we're seeing a lot of the banks are using that. You can do your full application on there. We've got some who are taking the 7A PPP application in paper and processing it on their end. And then we have some who have their own portal specific to their bank they're using. some of the commonalities we're seeing across all of them, everyone wants a payroll register. They want to see the name of all the employees that were employed during the period and what they were paid, any paid time off. They want to see that. 941s for each quarter and your 940. They all want that as well to back up your payroll. Copy of your most recent tax return. That is a definite on there. So where some of the crazy stuff is coming in, some banks are wanting front and back copies of driver's license for all the owners, copies of a canceled check, 6 months worth of bank statements for all business accounts, certificate of good standing. You get that on the Secretary of State website if you haven't had to get one of those recently. Some want articles of organization, and oh bless us, that's been hard for some of our clients who are small and been around for 10, 15 years to figure out what have I done with that sheet of paper. So there's just a massive box of what you could or could not need. What we can say though is going forward, once you get your loan, we know we're going to need some things to prove forgiveness. So starting at that point, we're going to cancel checks for rent, cancel checks for utilities or receipts from the providers, and then we're going to need all of our payroll reports as well. If you're paying people in cash and then adding it to payroll later, this is not the 8-week period to do that. Like, let's make this clean and simple. Everyone needs a traceable payment form at this point in time, because before these loans can be forgiven, we have to prove without a shadow of doubt that you have used those proceeds on what they were for.
Yeah, Heather, that's a really good point too, as far as documentation, because the way that, you know, one banker, and like I said, it's been different across the board, and this isn't what bankers typically do, so they're learning it as well. But kind of was explained as, hey, the goal is to get money in small business owners' hands as quickly as possible, and then kind of once things pick back up after the 2-month period, so that's when they'll start really digging into the forgivable portions.
Yeah.
Documentation thoroughly if you are applying and taking advantage of this particular loan. We are, what is today? April, I don't know, working from home. I've lost track of days. We're at April 8th.
Yes.
So you are usually drowning in tax returns right now.
Absolutely.
Has not been the case. Tell me about kind of all the changes with the tax deadline being pushed and kind of what you're seeing from small businesses and then just individuals in general.
Yeah, so we've kind of got a varying reaction from different people based on where they are tax-wise. So I think as everyone's heard, we've extended all the deadlines to July 15th. We've extended payments to July 15th. That would be for your taxes owed on the prior year, along with Q1 2020 estimated tax payments. Ironically, Q2 estimates are still due June 30th. So Q2 is due June 30th, Q1 is due July 15th. Depending on how the next couple of weeks pan out, you know, I would not be surprised if we saw these get pushed back farther at that point. So on your July 15th, this is an automatic extension. You don't have to file anything. You've just got till July 15th. So we're seeing definitely a decrease in the number of returns we're doing, but not significant because a lot of our clients do have refunds coming. They're wanting to get their refunds. And again, some of the bankers are really struggling with pushing all of this through and are more comfortable with 2019 returns. So we've had a lot we've been pushing through this week just so that our clients can provide their banker with a 2019 return to make the banker more comfortable with what they're looking at. So, you know, we're still as busy as normal. It's just a very different busy. Never thought I would say I wish I was reviewing tax returns 90 hours a week right now, but I do. You know, it's still exciting, lots and lots of learning going on, but we've been chasing a moving target, just trying to figure out how do we get relief to our client and what's accurate, what day of the week lately.
Right, and I think that you brought up a really good point too, is because a lot of people who are inquiring and whatever that website that you discussed, I'll make sure to share that on the link as well, so anybody can access that. If that's,
I'll send that over to you.
Yeah, if that's a site that you're seeing a lot of bankers continue to use, then we'll make sure that we share that as well. But the biggest advice that you could give, hey, I'm a small business owner and I need some assistance right now. Obviously, we want to make sure we're taking care of our employees out there. You know, we're both in the state of Alabama. We want to focus on our unemployment and make sure our state's economy can, you know, get back to normal possible. So small business owner, best advice, what do you got?
I mean, I think we've got to look at the big picture right now. Are you open? Can you work from home? Can you continue to bring your revenues in? If you can, then yes, by all means, let's focus on this and try to keep our staff working at as full of capacity as we can do with all the outside functions going on. Let's touch base with our banker ASAP if we have not yet, because the bankers are the gatekeepers for this payroll protection program. There's a limited number of dollars out there available. There are tons of rumors on who gets what's going to happen when it runs out. At the end of the day, we don't have a real answer. Like, there is just no answer to what's happening when it runs out. We would hope they would allocate more funds to it, but I don't know what they're going to do at this point. So the first thing I'm telling all my small business owners to do is call your banker, see if they're participating in this program, because we've got to get this rolling. The next thing is, let's look and see where are your employees at. And it's going to be case by case, because some of my clients, it has made more sense to furlough some employees, where we've taken a staff of 10 and said, okay, we can keep 3 busy, fully paid. Let's put 7 on furlough, which means there's a difference between layoff and furlough. So in furlough, you're coming back when we can reopen. We're seeing this a lot with like dentists, dermatologists, gyms, salons, places that they can't do anything to bring in revenue right now. So we're furloughing some because unemployment has been bumped up $600 a week by the CARES Act. So basically now you're getting between $800 and $900 a week on unemployment, which for some people that's actually more than they were making to begin with. So we're assessing it from that level of who needs to be furloughed, as in we continue to pay their benefits. They're not losing benefits. We're not putting them on COBRA, but they're going to file unemployment until we get the payroll protection loan in. At that point, we will call them back in and they'll go back on full payroll. And that's kind of been one way to really extend out what we can do to keep everyone whole. Because I know at first we were like, let's reduce hours, everyone will work a little, but at the end of the day, we just had a full staff and none of them had enough money in their paycheck to pay their bills. So that really wasn't a good solution there. Kind of the big thing is there's a big stigma with unemployment. So we've got to make sure that these employees are comfortable with what's going on and they understand that this is temporary and they're coming back. And in a lot of cases, they might make more on unemployment than while they're in the office. And really just making sure that these particular employees, they might could go a week or two until the unemployment starts paying. That's another thing we want to watch and make sure that we're not putting them in an incredibly difficult position where they're short for 2 weeks if they are paycheck to paycheck, which unfortunately so many of us are these days.
Yeah, so that's a really good point too. So when you're talking about the increase in the unemployment, you're furloughed and you can still have access to that additional unemployment increase, when does that stop? When does the increase in the unemployment stop?
So it started with the CARES Act and you can take it for 12 weeks. So kind of the big thing is if you do the payroll protection program, once you get your loan, you need to start pulling your employees back in. So we're still waiting on exact guidance regarding forgiveness. One school of thought says everyone needs to be back by June 30th is your hard date. So some really aggressive people are saying, let your employees stay on unemployment for another month or 2 until you can open back up, then open up and start paying them. Kind of the danger with that is that you're going to lose some of your forgiveness of your loan, because once that loan is paid out, your 8-week period starts where you've got to spend 75% of those proceeds on wages. So we're saying as soon as you get your loan, let's go ahead and call your employees back in. And also, I mean, it's peace of mind to the employee as well when they come back in. The other big picture is what happens 8, 10, 12 weeks down the road if we're still in this. That I don't know the answer to, because everyone's like, we bring our employees in, we start paying them, but what happens come June 30th? Hopefully this is gone, the curve is done, and we're back to normal, but it is something we are keeping in the back of our minds to watch out for.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we've seen the trend finally starting to come down a little bit in New York and New Orleans. So we're hoping that these deadlines stay. But like you said, there's no crystal ball. We don't know.
That's the hard part of all of this.
Right. And I could not agree more with what you said, is talk to your banker and don't believe everything that you hear, because my husband, he will watch all the news. He's like, oh, they've already given out so much money. I don't know. I mean, you know, and that's just, and then when you talk to the individual banks, it's like, that's just not at all the community they're getting. And so, don't believe all of everything.
Yeah, I think the news has like the fundraiser goal, and they're like raising it up and saying, look, they've already given all this money out. But in reality, we don't have access to that information. So you can't freak out, and, you know, show your banker a little grace. Like, we're all stressed out right now, but they have got the hardest job out of all of this right now, because on top of trying to figure out what this looks like on their platforms, they're also fielding all of our phone calls and emails from the accountants and the clients. So just remember, because they're not answering the phone does not mean that they are not working hard on this. They're trying to find out an answer because they want their clients to make it through as well.
Right. Because I mean, if they're, you know, so many banks are processing their own clients' loans before they'll take any other processes. So, you know, they're clients of them. So if the clients suffer, they suffer too. So definitely they're hard to make sure that they get through. Well, I mean, have you seen any before I let you go, have you seen any of your clients actually receive funds yet?
Yeah, so we saw funds come in this morning. We saw a $585,000 deposit this morning hit a bank account. And my father also in Tuscaloosa using a small local bank got his this morning too. And, you know, it's like I was saying earlier when you and I were talking, I was pretty pumped to see that our small local bank in Tuscaloosa, Alabama kept up with the big dogs. Like, they got their stuff through, and they got it through quicker than a lot of the big names that I've been working with up here in Birmingham did.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Heather and I both graduated from the University of Alabama. So we're both Tuscaloosa, moved to Birmingham from Tuscaloosa. So yeah, no, that's awesome news. Great for anyone that is currently working with a small bank and stuff. And so knowing that you don't have to be with a large bank to be able to process and have access to this money. That's awesome that you've already seen funds come.
I was shocked. Like, I know personally, I felt we weren't going to see this till the end of the month. Granted, again, I kind of wish it was the end of the month so we had more of that 8-week period, but I'm so pumped to see the money's coming. Like, we're going to get some relief in business owners' hands and get some payroll out. And then I know just on the individual level, I was going to kind of throw out there are some cutbacks on retirement withdrawals right now. So for our business owners who, worst case scenario, they've got to stay afloat, we can pull money out of retirement if we have to. No 10% penalty, 3-year payback on paying the tax on the withdrawals. So if you've been good with your retirement and you need to go that route, you can do that, and it's going to be fairly painless at that point.
Yeah, so that's great. That's awesome. I didn't know that was a part of the access. That's fantastic.
It is. So they added that. The other component with retirement is that you can do up to $100,000 loans from your retirement account now. Previously, that was capped at 50. We really don't encourage the loans, though. If you leave your employer, it's due back immediately. So if you feel like you may need to take the money out, you may be better taking it out and paying the tax on it. Those are just kind of considerations. You know, we never want to tell you to take money out of retirement, but this is unprecedented times. Like, at this point, we're all working to stay afloat, and if you need to use that nest egg, then please use it. You've got it there for a reason. I think our other big thing everyone's excited about is the stimulus checks. I know we haven't touched on that yet, but everyone is pumped. The big question is, when am I going to get my stimulus check? Well, we're hearing middle of April, between April 13th and 16th. If you did a direct deposit on your tax return in 2019 or 2018, whichever one's most recently filed, you should see that money hitting your bank or a check going out in the mail for you. So they're doing $1,200 a person, $2,400 for married couples, and then another $500 for each dependent child. That's for people making $150 or less if you're married, $75 or less if you're single. They do phase out, so you'll get a portion of that up to $198,000 of income or $99 if you're single. So that's kind of nice. Putting a little money in your pocket. I don't know that $1,200 is going to save us for the next 8 weeks, but it's definitely going to put some groceries on the table for someone. So that's going to be great there as well.
So one question too. So if you have been furloughed or if you have been let go and you're currently on unemployment, do you still receive the stimulus check?
You do. That is not a factor at all. Also, if you are on Social Security and you don't even file a tax return, you still receive it if you're getting a Social Security check.
Yeah, so that's great information. So everyone is, unless your annual income is over the 198 total, you are going to get money.
Yes, if you haven't filed yet, I've got a lot of questions of people 2018, they made more money than 2019. We do believe there's going to be kind of a true up coming next year where if your return wasn't filed and then you did file and you made less, you would get it on the back end, as we've seen in past stimulus programs. But again, all that is, we don't have the exact details, but we do believe that is coming.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that will really help. Hopefully, you know, as we continue to trend down, hopefully that'll just pump some cash into our economy, helping with groceries, et cetera. So awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Heather. I really, really appreciate your time today and helping us kind of maneuver through all of this, all of the ever-changing regulations. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. The amount of time I've spent reading, the more people I can share this with, the better. It makes it feel like it wasn't a waste of 2 weeks of life. We all know how that feels.
Well, good deal. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. Have a good one.
Bye.